and explore reality throughout senses. To create a successful XR environment, we need to understand the modalities of human perception. This will help us to create immersive virtual environments in which users can experience presence. The quality of users' experience in an XR environment is fundamentally influenced by the sense of presence. While presence is difficult to define rigorously, it can be regarded as a state during which users ignore the role of technology in creating the experience. In other words, the users believe the illusion presented to their senses. To better understand the sense of presence, look around you and realize that there is no question that what you perceive is real. Now try to immerse yourself into the ocean scene in front of you, trying to feel you are in there. It will be hard to believe that you are on the seafloor among corals looking at dolphins. It is quite likely that you will regard it as a picture that is part of your reality, not a real place in which you are. If you do manage to feel present on the seafloor, the big red presence banner may pull you out of your experience. It is hard to say how presence feels or what makes it happen, since it is a continuous state for us as we move through our environment. Trying to be present in an image was a challenge that should have given you an idea about what needs to be overcome to achieve presence. Achieving a sense of presence depends heavily on the users, there being no guaranteed method to induce it. However, the good news is that the best predictor for presence is immersion. You may have noticed that we ask that you immerse yourself into the ocean scene. Immersion is the degree at which the application addresses the perceptual modalities of the user, such as sight, hearing, touch, proprioception, smell, and taste. The ocean scene is just a photo on a screen, maybe even on a phone screen, providing a very small degree of immersion. Your experience would have hopefully confirmed that the less immersion a scene provides, the less potential for achieving presence it has. Consequently, a successful XR environment must strive to achieve the highest level of immersion possible. The sense of presence can be lost when something in the virtual or real environment distracts users, pulling them out of the illusion. Such moments are called break-in presence. Furthermore, repeated exposure to a virtual environment will make the users used to it, leading to insensitivity to immersions and thus to lack of presence. We will now discuss each perceptual modality, focusing on the requirements of achieving high-quality sensory exposure. When it comes to human sight, the first aspect to be discussed is the field of view. It is a combination of each individual eye field of view and limited by the obstruction created by the nose and the eyebrows. You can see the two individual eye fields of view shaded in blue. Notice how both are limited on the opposite side by the nose, thus covering approximately 30 degrees less. You can also notice the top range being even more restricted by the presence of eyebrows. The overlapping parts of the two fields of view define an area covered by both eyes, called binocular vision. The areas covered by a single eye are named monocular vision. Overall, we can say that the field of view covers about 160 degrees horizontally and about 130 degrees vertically. The retina receptors and the optical nerve pathways divide the vision into central vision and peripheral vision, each complementing each other through their differences. From a field of view perspective, a high-quality sensory exposure would require covering the entire field of view with a display with as high a resolution as possible. Central vision has high acuity, works best in bright light, and is color sensitive. Peripheral vision, on the other hand, is more sensitive to light and thus works better in darker conditions. It is, however, color insensitive and has lower acuity, but it is very sensitive to fast motion and flicker. The visual acuity determines the minimum size of discernible objects. Visual acuity can be measured with different methods, and it depends not only on the size of the objects, but also on their shapes and positions relative to each other. On average, normal acuity can detect objects that span about a 60th of a degree, which is significantly smaller than the thickness of the circle lines in the diagram. Considering the maximum angle of the field of view, we can infer that the display should have a horizontal resolution of 9600 pixels to match the human acuity. Such a resolution is significantly higher than the current technological possibilities. From a field of view perspective, a high-quality sensory exposure would require covering the entire field of view with a display with as high a resolution as possible. Covering the field of view with a high-resolution image is only the first step towards visual immersion. A simple flat image without depth will not be able to sustain the illusion of presence for long. Human vision perceives depth in the binocular vision area, where objects are seen with both eyes. The diagram on the left shows the projection of point X on the retina at the back of the eye. Notice how each eye has a different projection location. From these two separate projection locations, the brain infers the distance of the object. You can explore this phenomenon easily by placing a pencil in front of your nose, a shown and covering or closing alternatively each eye. As you repeat this, you will notice how the position of the pencil changes with respect to the background. If it doesn't, just bring the pencil closer to the nose. Achieving depth perception in a virtual environment requires technology that displays slightly shifted images to each eye independently. The simplest mechanism to do so is using red-blue eyeglasses and looking at a red-blue shifted image like the alphabet shown below the glasses. The red lens will allow the eye to only see the blue text, while the blue lens will allow the eye to only see the red text. Thus, each eye will see a version of the alphabet that is slightly shifted, and the alphabet will appear to be floating. Modern technology achieves stereo vision in different modes, one of which you have probably experienced watching a 3D movie with polarized glasses. Motion in everyday reality is continuous, every object passing through all intermediate positions from start to finish. This is, however, not how screens and 3D graphics work. The apparent motion in 3D graphics is achieved by rendering continuously the virtual environment into images called frames that are displayed on the screen. Any motion of the virtual objects will thus result in a sequence of intermediate positions, which, when displayed sufficiently fast, will appear like a continuous motion. Consider the panther running frames. They depict 12 intermediate positions from the beginning to the end of a leap. If we render each of them individually, fast and continuously, it will look the panther is running. The rate at which these frames are rendered is called frame rate, and the rate at which they are displayed to the user is called refresh rate. The minimum bearable refresh rate is 24 frames per second. Less will not look like continuous motion, but even this will not look lifelike. Ideally, the refresh rate should be 60 frames per second. When in stereo vision, each eye needs to see a different image, so we need either two displays, each running at 60 frames per second refresh rate, or a single display running at 120 frames per second refresh rate. The application will need to render at 120 frames per second in both cases. Apparent motion on displays can cause a few interesting effects in the human eye: strobing, smearing, and judder. Strobing appears when the multiple shapes appear simultaneously on the screen, although except for one, all the others having been displayed some time ago and therefore should have disappeared. This is caused by stimuli persisting on the human retina for longer. Bright flashes can lead to this. Smearing looks like a comet tail behind the moving object, with older images fading progressively and disappearing. This can be caused by images persisting on the retina or by display pixels with a large response time that do not change color as fast as the motion on the screen. Judder is the appearance of jerky motion and flickering. Hearing is the sense that helps us understand environment even at a distance. We can know that a door has been closed without necessarily being in that room. We can infer the dimension of the room we are in based on sound alone. We can also know the direction in which a car is moving by hearing alone. The auditory cues are essential to achieving presence in a virtual environment. Hearing your steps while wailing around a virtual environment is a powerful cue that, if missing, will downgrade the experience. It is important to understand the physical limits of the human hearing to achieve maximum effects and avoid discomfort. The human ear can detect frequencies between 22 Hz and 22 kHz. The maximum hearing sensitivity is, however, between 2 kHz and 4 kHz. During most everyday experiences, the sound intensity ranges between 80 dB and 90 dB. Sound pressures above 120 dB are painful. We are able to know the position of a sound due to the difference in impact on each ear. Repositioning the head is used instinctively when trying to clarify the direction and distance of a sound. A sound that is not positioned becomes background. To understand the importance of sound localization, consider the difference between sitting and moving car with its buzz all around you, no localization, and hearing your neighbors start their cars early in the morning, localized sound. However, background noise is not to be downplayed, as it is essential to the overall experience. Consider watching a basketball game in an empty arena versus a full arena. Even in moments of silence, a full arena will have a background sound from the crowd's collective little noises, breathing, coughing, adjusting posture, etc. Background sound usually includes low frequencies that you may feel as vibrations in your body. Think of standing next to a train locomotive with its engine running and compare it to listening to the same sound in headphones. In the former case, you will feel the sound in your bones, while in the latter, provided you have good headphone, you might feel some of the vibrations, but they will be limited to your skull. Moving sounds, besides being perceived at various positions every moment, also generate the Doppler effect. Think of an ambulance passing by you. The siren pitch goes up as it nears you, and then goes down as it passes by and goes away. Moving sound without the Doppler effect is unrealistic and may break presence. The skin is our largest sensing organ. The sensory receptors in the skin provide us with information that allows us to perceive and interact with the world. While touch is difficult to simulate in VR, touch cues make a great difference in how the virtual environment is perceived. Here are a few of the environment details that the skin can detect. Vibration. Some devices provide vibratory feedback to the user as a means of transmitting information, while others simply vibrate, and we learn to interpret its meaning. In both cases, we interact with the environment without having to move our visual attention to it. For campfire, electric toothbrushes vibrate stronger at higher speeds, and so do car engines at higher RPMs. Modern smartphones replace mechanical buttons with tactile ones that vibrate, giving the illusion of depressing them. Such cues enrich the virtual environment experience, facilitating presence. Texture. Touching a rough plank of wood or a window pane result in different sensations that inform us about the surface we are interacting with. The ability to feel surface textures while exploring the world makes the virtual objects ever more real. Temperature. Our skin is informing us continuously about the temperature in our environment. Temperature information in a virtual environment, while difficult to provide, will avoid breaking the presence in situations such passing by a campfire without feeling its hot radiation. The sense of touching can be triggered either passively or actively. Passive touch stimuli are applied to the skin. Active touch occurs when exploring and interacting with the environment. Active touch also provides us with information about the grip. Holding the strawberry as shown in the image would be extremely challenging without the sense of touch. Simulating such dexterous interaction in a virtual environment is a serious challenge. The sensation of whole body position and limbs position individually is called proprioception. The receptors providing this sense are located in our muscles, bones, and joint capsules. Proprioception also provides a sense of force being applied to our body. This sense allows us to walk, run, climb, and lift objects while keeping our posture. The man climbing stairs in the image is shifting weight from one foot to another while also compensating for the weight of the bag he carries in the right hand. Simulating proprioception in virtual environments is difficult due to the frequency at which large forces need to changes. A simple step on those stairs means shifting the weight of a man from one side to the other in a fraction of a second. While difficult to provide, virtual environments allowing the user to physically walk instead of navigating with a joystick or impressing on the user, the weight of a virtual object that it lifts, create deep immersion, which has high chances of leading to presence. We are finally reaching smell and taste. These two senses are similar as they both work with chemoreceptors. Taste is not exactly common in virtual environments as it requires output devices to touch the tongue. Smell, however, is amazingly powerful at creating presence. Look at the man in the picture smelling an apple, and remember a moment in your life when feeling a familiar smell transported you into an old memory, regardless of the actual context in which you were at the time. We have discussed each perceptual modality individually, but our perceptions are almost always multimodal. We rarely perceive the environment through a single sense. Perceptual modalities can complement each other. For instance, listening to a person speak is not a purely auditory experience, as the motion of the speaker's mouth helps us understand the words being said. Perceptual modalities can also interfere with each other. Using the same example of listening to a person speak, if the lip movements are matching a different sound, the listener will hear sounds that are neither what is being spoken nor what is being lip-synced. Furthermore, perceptual modalities can sometimes provide conflicting perceptions that can lead to confusion and nausea. Users experiencing a roller coaster ride in a VR helmet while sitting in a chair have their sight suggesting they should feel acceleration in their bodies, while their proprioceptive modality tells them they feel none. In some cases, this can lead to dizziness. In conclusion, in this chapter, we have explored the human perceptual modalities and understood their functioning and ways in which they can be simulated to create immersion, which potentially leads to presence. The goal of this chapter was to familiarize you with human senses and what it takes to trick them into believing a computer-generated image as being reality. A good XR user experience is defined by the level of presence, for which the best facilitator is immersion. The more senses are involved in an XR application, the deeper the immersion, the higher the chances for achieving presence. XR is by far more than just about visual simulations.